Happy Monday, everyone. As you can see, I invested in myself and I got a iPhone attachment thing that can go on my tripod. So here we are. How exciting is that? For those of you who have commented and said that my camera was too shaky, well, now I can shake all I want and the video won't shake. How splendid is that? So, I felt like making a video today, and I was just thinking on my way home about what a good topic would be. I was talking to a new ENFP friend of mine about how we can better cultivate a community of like-minded people in our town, and we were comparing and contrasting what college was like versus adult life. And so I kind of wanted this video to just sort of be about the functional differences that I see between the education system and the real world, and how I believe that society values certain functions in the education system versus in the real world. And this is going to be very specific to probably the United States, because that's the culture that I'm familiar with, even more specifically the Midwest. But I still can sort of just share the trends that I've seen. And so for those of you who aren't familiar, I'm talking about Carl Jung's 8 cognitive functions: feeling, sensing, intuitive, and thinking. What? Yes. And in an either introverted or extroverted way. And I believe that different cultures value different functions for different things, and all humans are capable of using all functions, but different types, whatever your Myers-Briggs personality type is, that shows what your preference is. So I'm not the first person to have said this. I'm pretty sure there are other YouTube videos that say this or blogs, but I believe that the education system is very extroverted thinking, and a lot of introverted thinkers don't do as well in school. Let me just sort of go down the list. Extroverted thinkers like TJs, I think, do the best in school because the school system, most school systems, unless you went to a Montessori school or a project-based learning school or some other sort of different school, most school systems value extroverted thinking in the sense that you're preparing to pass a test and you're regurgitating the information that your teacher told you. And so it doesn't take much introverted thinking, guessing, and it doesn't take much critical thinking as much. Now, when you go to college, you might have more classes that require introverted thinking and critical thinking, but most of school is pretty much you learn what the book says and then you share the facts that you learned. And so a lot of extroverted thinkers probably did well in the school system, like TJs. Now, if you're an FP, that means you use extroverted thinking, but it's not maybe your most favorite, but you're pretty decent at it and you understand it. An FP is the type of person that probably goofed off in school, but would then cram for the test and somehow end up doing really well and not really knowing why. And maybe not even remembering the information after the test, but just like, for example, I know a lot of like ENFPs that like got like amazing ACT scores because they just test really well. And I would always be really jealous because I would study and like try and remember the information, but then I wouldn't remember the specific fact they were looking for on the test. And I'd be like, that's not fair. But yeah, FPs seem to be really good at cramming for tests. But they probably have a hard time paying attention in school unless there's something that they are actually super interested in. Now, TPs, they tend to just want to know why, and might argue with the teacher, or might have a hard time understanding some concepts if they aren't really broken down to why do I even need to know this. A TP might not do well in a class if it's required, but doesn't have anything to do with a career that they plan to go into. They'll just be like, this is stupid, this is a waste of my time, I don't care if I get a good grade because I'm not going to need to know this skill later. But a TP would tend to do well in school if they really, really see why it's going to matter later. So FJs, as a J, like, we really understand that you have to do well in school or else you aren't going to go to college, which means you aren't going to get the job you want, which means you won't be happy. That's like basically what FJs think, is school isn't really geared toward us. We hate regurgitating facts. It doesn't seem to make sense. But we, at the end of the day, J's, I mean, tend to do well in school, and the fact that they understand that that's the structure, they know what to expect, and they know what to do. Like, FJs probably are the type that always get their assignments done, but might not do as well on the test. But they're at least always doing what the teacher said. Like, that's, FJs just do what the teacher said because they feel like they have to. And FJs can tend to be teachers' pets and ask questions when they don't understand, maybe ask dumb questions that, like, TJs in the room are like, what? We just went over that, or something. But if you really want to break it down here, it's like TE and TI users. So TE would be TJs and FPs, and then TI would be TPs and FJs. The school system is geared toward TE. It just is. Now, I think that in the real world, there's a lot more TI going on. I will say that in college, TI is more necessary, but really, like, school in general is more thinking-like, which a lot of feelers, they will really succeed and be standout students if they care. And this feels like kind of a generalization because really, I think everyone does better when they care, but thinkers, especially TJs, can just sort of get the job done. But what I realize is that in the real world, networking is super important. Who you know is super important. Forging the opportunities for yourself is super important. And from a thinker point of view, especially a TJ, it might seem not very fair. A TJ might think, well, I'm doing all the work, and how come I'm not getting noticed, like in the real world? But what I have found is that feelers do better in the real world than they did in college. Now, I'm not saying that feelers are like better or smarter than thinkers all the time, but here's what I'm saying. If you're a feeler, you probably were pleasantly surprised with your chances of success after college. If you're a thinker, you're probably more frustrated with success after college. The reason why is because feelers all through school kind of realized that their values and what they care about wasn't necessarily being the smartest person in the room, and feelers were not very likely to be like total tryhards, know-it-alls in school. And so when you graduated, there were probably all these people you knew, these kids that would just talk a lot of shit about how successful they were going to be, what they want to do, like all this stuff. And a lot of thinkers, that's kind of where they're coming from. Like, in school, they studied for the test, they understood the concept, they regurgitated it, and then they went on to the next thing, and they're just thinking all day long. They're able to succeed in school. Where feelers were really focused on wanting to fit in with their friends, wanting to make awesome memories, and all these other things that they valued more than school, might not have really felt as confident in their ability or their value. And then after college, when you go to a job interview, it's not just how smart you are, it's can you get that person to trust you? Can you convince them of what your value is? Can you be friendly and be interested in them? And I think that feelers, that's where they succeed, is face-to-face, getting someone to like you, being friendly, listening, seeming trustworthy, seeming eager to learn, and just having a good heart. And not that thinkers don't have a good heart, but what I'm trying to say by good heart is like your heart in the right place, and like seeming very passionate and ready to take on challenges. And I think that attitude fares well in the real world. And also, in order to find your dream job, you're going to sort of have to network a lot to find the right people and feel okay with asking questions like, I'm not sure what I want to do with my life. I'm not sure where I want to go. Do you have any advice for me? Like, you have to sort of do that if you want to get your foot in the door. And I think that thinkers, they have an awesome resume. It is to the T. They look smart as hell. They did their internship. They just send it away, and they think that it's going to be just like school and they're going to get a grade. But in the real world, people matter. And the person you are matters, not just the work that you put out. Because if an employer wants to hire you, they want to know that you're going to be loyal to the company, that they can trust you to do what you say you're going to do, that you're going to be good at working with a team, that you're going to take criticism well, like all those sort of soft skills that isn't really taught in school. I find that feelers grasp those soft skills quickly, and they probably knew them in school and were cultivating those soft skills without even knowing, because their teacher didn't even ask. Maybe they went to parties a lot, and they, had a friend circle and they collaborated, and they learned these sort of personable skills that maybe thinkers didn't really care as much about. Now, I'm aware that a lot of what I'm saying is a generalization, but I kind of have to use a generalization in order to convey what I'm saying, which is what society values. And I think that at the end of the day, in the real world, you need thinking and feeling. You need both. And at the end of the day, not one is more important than the other. But I do think that the school system doesn't really value being a well-rounded person as much as they value making sure that you learn the facts and that you share the facts. But if you aren't a good person, if you aren't a well-rounded person, if you can't communicate well, you are not going to be able to get by just being smart. You're not going to be able to get your foot in the door. You're not going to be able to, like, if you go to a networking event, you're going to have the courage to reach out to someone that you think you might be able to work well with someday. And, like, just ask for coffee. Ask for help if you need help. Offer help if you can give help. All these sort of people skills is necessary. And it wasn't necessarily necessary in the education system aside from popularity contests, which clearly doesn't matter. But so yeah, I mean, I think that I was pleasantly surprised to find this out, honestly, as I graduated and realizing that that's really important, because network is everything. And I wish that it was more fair. I wish that opportunities wasn't just based on who you know. And I don't think that it's necessarily all bad for work opportunities to be based on who you know and your network. The only reason why it's bad is whenever there is segregated communities, wealth inequality, things like that, and just like gaps of opportunity can continue to widen. that is not good when it comes to hiring decisions being based on who you know. Because then people tend to just hire who looks like them, who went to their school, who came from the same resources as they did. That is not good. But let's say we lived in this wonderful, perfect dream world where all the unicorns and all of the fucking rainbows are. And let's say we live in a dream world where everyone has the same opportunity. In that world, I think that getting a job based on who you know and by utilizing your network is not bad at all. I think it's awesome. And I think that it's a skill. And I think that people that have been able to rise up from situations of less access to opportunity did so because they're able to utilize their network. And so, yeah, I think that, I still think that at the end of the day, ETJs, so ESTJs and ENTJs, are able to really rise up in an American capitalist system, especially a business environment. They're able to rise up faster than other types, which is not fair. But I think that the world's shifting a little bit toward more individualism and more entrepreneurship and more collaboration. And I think that TI and FE is becoming more needed. In our school system, there's a lot more project-based learning schools popping up. There's a lot of charter schools in urban areas that teach innovation at a young age, teach critical thinking and collaboration, and I think people are beginning to realize that being curious, asking questions, working well with the team, which is more TI and FE, that's important. And that it's not just important to get shit done and like regurgitate facts. And at the end of the day, you have to get shit done and you have to collaborate. And so I do think that the work environment is changing and valuing people with FE and TI a little bit more. And I think that community is everything. And yeah, so I hope that you like this video. Maybe I'll do more like these someday where I sort of explain the dynamics and culture that I see and how I see that relates to type. Yeah. Let me know if this makes sense too, because maybe I'm not really quite explaining everything I mean by the functions. I've kind of just been jumping into it, assuming that people listening to this know what I'm talking about, because I, for some reason, am nervous to make a video that explains exactly what my definitions are, because I want those things to be perfect, and I don't want to put it out there unless it's perfect. But yeah, I really do. I notice dynamics that are based on the functions all the time in society, and a whole bunch about politics, where it's like, oh, this party seems to value this function, and this party values this function, and not necessarily that the people in it are all that type. And kind of like with this video too, like I'm not saying that everyone that is succeeding in college or in the education system in general uses TE, but you kind of can see how systems could value a certain type as well, and then the people in it have to sort of learn to, even if they don't naturally prefer that, to sort of make do so that they are, I don't know, valuing the function that they need to value in order to succeed in that system. So eventually I would hope that we can create a world where there is no function that is valued over the other, and everyone can just feel free to be themselves and express themselves however they see fit. But we don't live in that world right now. There are different industries that value different functions, different political parties, different states, different cities. I mean, culture just values different functions in different places, and so this is why some people might feel like they belong and some people feel like they don't belong. So anyway, thanks for watching this video and have a wonderful Monday.